says I'm live. Am I live? Are we? Are any of us really live? Looking over at my phone, and yep, just popped up. All right, here we go. Here we go with another Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990 Neca Bootleg unboxing, and this is Leonardo, who of course has Michelangelo's bio on the back because apparently they all just have Michelangelo's bio on the back. I'm guessing whoever copy and pasted all this stuff just wasn't really paying attention to what the English writing was really saying, because they're probably somebody in China making these bootlegs, and if it's anything like these guys, it's probably somebody at the NECA factory. Oh, and I don't just have Raphael over here. I've got Leonardo himself, so we can have some fun comparing those. And also I've got my, speaking of bootleg Ninja Turtles, the bootleg movie star Leonardo figure, which I feel like is appropriate because it's the same version as this guy. It's the same iteration of the character. And of course, this is the original Leonardo. This is as he appeared in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1. He's got a blue mask, which that came from the cartoon series. But other than that, he's that original first appearance character. And of course, last week I opened up all those original sketch figures, so got a whole bunch of different versions of Ninja Turtles. And NECA also did a 2-pack with the actual original sketches that Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird did, respectively, of their Ninja Turtle. And that comes with all the weapons, so that could be another Leonardo figure if you wanted it to, I suppose. All right, so let's go ahead and get him out of the package. We don't really need to talk about the packaging too much because we already talked about it with Michelangelo and Donatello, but I'll go ahead and show off the packaging anyway, since this is the only package that came relatively unscathed. It's a little dented up at the top. You can see how it got a little dent right here and got a little bent up at the corner right there. But otherwise, this box is actually in pretty good shape. He's the only one. Oh, I guess we can see the picture of Leonardo on the side. And there's some close-up shot of the figure. There's another one. These are kind of mimicking styles and or positions from the original movies artwork, like their promotional photographs. So here is Leonardo's slice of pizza, and it is not the same as the other two slices. All these slices look like they have their own sort of quirks, and I actually would not be surprised if they were all from completely different companies, and just they just get the bootlegs from whoever. But all these pizzas have different colored crusts. I didn't notice that when I was opening up Michelangelo and Donatello. Didn't notice and or didn't care. But they both have this kind of like dark tannish sort of color, almost like an olive green. Do you like penicillin on your pizza? I don't. But you can see one of these slices, and I'm not sure whose is whose, so I wasn't really paying that much attention to the pizza itself. But one of them has you can kind of see it on camera, I think. One of them has a little more sort of like where the cheese kind of got toasty where it hit the crust. But compare that to the slice that came with Leonardo. And Leonardo has a much healthier, if a little bit less well done, kind of golden brown sort of color, like a tan. That's a little bit more like what I expect a pizza crust to be colored like than this. So, but yeah, they've got different types of pizza, which I'm pretty sure they all came from the same pizza, the unsliced pizza that Leonardo cuts up with his katana. The Domino's, apparently back in the 90s, they would not slice the pizza and pass the savings along to you. And there's the extra bandana piece. And we can see Leonardo's bandana is blue, obviously. And like with Donatello, it's a little more pale and kind of washed out than we're used to seeing Leonardo's bandana. And maybe that's accurate to the movie. I don't know. I don't remember. But it does seem like more of a realistic kind of movie color. You know what I mean? How they're always trying to make the superheroes more realistic as far as the colors. And, you know, if something's got a red costume, it's going to wind up being kind of burgundy and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, Captain America, we have to make the stripes on his costume look like suspenders because there's no reason in real life anybody would wear stripes, especially if they're trying to dress like an American flag. So we'll turn those into suspenders because that's a lot less ridiculous, apparently. And Leonardo in the package was kind of like not posed to fit the package. You saw there's this space here where the arm obviously is supposed to go into it, but his arm is more sort of down at his side. He's kind of pigeon-toed in there. So the bootleggers did not take a lot of care in putting this boy into the package. So, and like the other ones, he's not held in with any kind of rubber tabs or rubber bands or twist ties or any of that BS, which is good. I like that. This is a nice experience, just opening up the package and taking the figure out of the package and not having to cut through a bunch of like plastic bands. So here is Leonardo out of the package, and we can see, like the other boys, he has his own unique head sculpt, since all the boys had different faces in that movie, which was, as I've mentioned before, that was a new and unique way of interpreting the Ninja Turtles. Previously, in the comics and in the cartoon series and all the merchandise, all these boys were kind of drawn to look sort of identical to each other. Like if you swapped around their headband colors in the cartoons, as often happened, you'd wind up with a character that looked, you know, just like, you know, say if I put a purple bandana on Leonardo, he's still gonna look like Donatello, you know, even if Cam Clark's voice is coming out of his mouth. Or if I put an orange bandana onto Donatello, he's still gonna, you know, he's gonna look like Donatello, even if he's still got Barry Gordon's voice coming out of his mouth. And Leonardo appears to have the same hands that the other boys come in, the grasping hands, like over here. And they're both, you know, kind of tight grips. So we'll see if we can actually fit these katana into his hands. But, you know, this hand here, that's just the devil. Like, and apparently, like I said, I was watching a video on the official Neca, which I don't have. And that guy was saying that the hands were of a much softer plastic. And I can tell you, at least on this bootleg, and like I said, 99.99999.9% sure that these are bootlegs. The plastic on the hands is fairly rigid. It's not gonna flex that much. It's got a little bit of give to it, but not a whole lot. You know, these are the same type of plastic as the rest of the arms and legs and feet and everything like that. So, but I think that they did a good job sculpting Leonardo's face. That to me looks like what Leonardo looks like in the movie. And the paint isn't too bad. This eye, sculpting wise, it looks like this eye is a little whiter than this eye. Like he's kind of doing one of these numbers, you know? And that's fine. I like how it gives a little bit of expressiveness to it. And I've got to say, Leonardo has the best paint on the eyes of any of these that I've opened up thus far. Donatello's eyes, his eye paint looked kind of crappy, but it didn't really bother me that much because his eyes are kind of a little more deep set in the face, and they get kind of shadowed over by the bandana. So that one didn't look too bad to me. And Michelangelo's just looked horrible. And I did do the fix on that, the paint, so you can see that in the community post that I did. And Leonardo's eye paint actually looks pretty good. And you can see that Leonardo has the two narrow straps that are supposed to hold his katana onto his back. And he's got the two sheaths for the katana. And he's got the little opening there. If we look at the Playmates version, with the bootleg at least, you see it's got that little opening there. And they put like a little strap across the top. Probably to make it easier for the kids to get it into the sheaths like that. I don't think that there would have been any. Surely Playmates would have tried to save plastic and not put that little strap on there if they thought they could get away with it. Anyway, so as far as the other accessories go, besides the pizza and the bandana, we've got two open hands, and those are kind of like the high five hand from the end. But unfortunately, he's the only boy that comes with one. So Leonardo's going to be like, "Cowabunga!" and just be there awkwardly and waiting for the other boys to give him a high five. And they're just going to leave him hanging because they don't have the high five hands. Like maybe Michelangelo could give him a thumbs up back. Like, "Sorry, dude, I don't have a high three hand." They'd call it a high three, wouldn't they? But yeah, so he'd just be, or if you want him to like be imitating the bad guys from World War II, but who wants that? So yeah, this katana is just not going to go in this hand. It's just not. The katana is a lot thicker than Michelangelo's nunchucks or Donatello's bow. And of course, Donatello's bow was the one I had the easiest time getting in this hand because I could just insert it from this other angle and it would go in there just fine. But like, it's physics, man. You want me to put this narrow little hole, you want me to fill it with this thick, this girthy katana handle, and it just ain't gonna happen. It's got this nice thick pommel on there. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to fit it into the hand where the thumb and the forefinger aren't fused together. And Leonardo seems to have like a little more sort of a lighter color on the fingertips than the other boys did as far as like the fingernail go. And I don't have the other figures over here with me, but yeah, he's got like with the pizza crust, he's got almost sort of like a little bit more of a yellow. Maybe they used the same color on the pizza crust that they used on the fingernails when they were painting it. But yeah, you can see on this extra Donatello hand how like it's a different color for the fingernail, but it's a little more subtle. And again with Michelangelo, like I wasn't even paying that much attention to the fingernail paint on these boys, but you can see it's still green. It's still like an olive green color, but it's like a slightly more subtle, lighter shade of that green. And Leonardo's are just yellow. So I don't know if he's got some kind of fungus under his nails or not. I don't know what the deal is. But again, like with Donatello and Michelangelo both, the belt seems kind of loose except for where it's glued down in the back. And of course, since he's got the katanas on the back, those seem like they're kind of glued down as well. They're definitely glued to the belt. And I think they're somewhat glued. Maybe not glued very well. I think that it's like it's kind of hard to tell. But I think that both the belt and the place where the katana are glued into the shell. And then the shell, the straps are glued into the shell, and then the sheaths are glued onto the straps. So the katana aren't really glued onto the sheaths, I should say, aren't really glued onto the shelves anymore. And I'd seen where some people had just kind of dropped the katana into the sheath, but no, you can see this one actually does grip it pretty well. And that again is like where I'm talking about where like probably different people are making these bootlegs, and they're probably coming out of different factories. And some of those might actually be official Neca factories. but there's going to be differentiations between these bootlegs. So like I said, I remember watching one video where he was talking about the bootlegs didn't have this joint here, which this guy clearly has underneath the shell, where you can kind of rock the torso back and forth and from side to side. And the official NECA version I'd seen where they just kind of, I'll show you with the comic book Leonardo, because he definitely suffers from that. So with this guy, and I've talked about this before when I've talked about this figure in the past, you can see the bootleg Michelangelo figure where I actually open up the Michelangelo figure. But you can see how loose that is. And both the sheaths, I believe, are like that. So they don't stay in there very well. So when I have this guy in when I had this guy in storage, oh, I broke the pommel off. Gotta be careful of that. I didn't actually break it; it just kind of popped off. So I can put it back on. No big deal. It just kind of came off when I pulled it out of the hand. I didn't even notice. I'm glad I didn't drop it or anything. That would have sucked. But yeah, you can see what I'm talking about with that. They don't fit very tightly in there. And when I put the pommel back in, it fit in very snugly. We don't have to worry about dropping it or anything. It's fine. It's all good. But here we can see Leonardo next to his comic book counterpart. And like I said, both of these are bootlegs. This is a bootleg of the original comic book version. And if you've got one that has the different colored headbands, like this one has a blue headband, then you know it's a bootleg. NECA never officially made them with the cartoon color headbands. That was something that was a bootleg. But you can see that like Leonardo got a little bit of height when he moved into the movies. He's at least a full head taller than his comic book counterpart. And, they just had to kind of make do with the size that the actors actually were when they put them in the suits. I think they probably tried to get the shortest martial artists that they could get. But, if they'd gone any shorter, they would have had to get dwarves, and that would have, interfered with the proportions of the suits and everything like that. And, then you're having to find dwarves that are skilled in martial arts. And this is not even like a regular guy who's a dwarf, but who just happens to be short. But you got to find one that can flip around and do all that kind of stuff. So they were able to get guys who were in kind of the a little below average height, but they're still taller than technically the Ninja Turtles should be. And as far as I'm concerned, they should be short little guys. They should not be tall people. Like Bela Lugosi here should be in the same scale as these guys. And Bela Lugosi was a tall dude. He was over 6 feet tall. So you can see he stands above the Ninja Turtles, and that makes sense. Or if you want to go with He-Man here, who is supposed to be in the same scale, you see He-Man is much taller than the movie Turtle figures. Again, as it should be. And going into the DC universe, we got John Stewart. Just looking at some random 7-inch figures here that I happen to have around. Green Lantern. And again, he's about a head taller than Leonardo. So, but they both got green power, so that's good. And last and certainly not least, let's look at him right next to the mighty Man of Steel himself, Superman. And you can see that Superman, again, is taller. And, I do have a couple more guys I can compare him to. Actual NECA figures. And so, yeah, Lothar, a little bit taller from Defenders of the Earth. And the savior of the universe himself, Flash Gordon, a little bit taller. And the comic book King Features characters are a little bit shorter than the live action Flash Gordon movie. So that Flash Gordon would also be taller than Leonardo. So anyway, I'm going to, before, that is snug. That is a snug fit for that katana. The other one fits in there snugly too. I don't think it's going to be in any danger of falling out, but it's not quite as snug as that first one. So before we do anything else, let's talk about the articulation some. So first of all, Leonardo's bandana is articulated, so you can have that blowing in the wind, which is my preferred position to have the bandanas in when he's standing on the shelf. So it looks more sort of action adventure oriented. But if you want to have it lying at the side, you can have it lying at the side. And he does have the extra bandana piece, so you can put this one in and have it lying on the other side if you want to do that. Unfortunately, they don't come with a third piece where the two ends lie over either side, which would have been nice, but we can't have it all, can we? And I haven't really looked too closely at these, and I was kind of curious as to maybe they were the same sculpt, that they just kind of mirrored. But it does look like they are two completely different sculpts, at least to my eye, as far as those bandanas go. I will point out that I think that they came with the bandanas going on the other side on Michelangelo and Donatello, but this one does seem to be on this side that it came down. So I know, because this is the Donatello bandana that was on the figure in the package, and his goes over that side. And yep, same one, Michelangelo. And those are the same sculpts. I think that the boys do not have unique sculpts of the bandanas. I think they have the same sculpt for both bandanas, and that I don't have a problem with, because they already have different heads. Like, what else do you want? And different shells too. The shells are different on these boys, and the belts are different on these boys. But I'm pretty sure the arms and the legs are all universal. Like those all get shared. Unfortunately, the same hands. These are like my least favorite NECA gripping hands that I've ever seen. Really, more this one. I don't like that the thumb and the forefinger are touching together. Like, that's something where it's like that was a mistake. They shouldn't have done that. And bad on NECA for doing that. Unless the original NECA figure actually isn't like that, and it's just how it is on this bootleg. So, in which case, shame on the bootleggers. But I mean, they're bootleggers. I don't think they usually put that much emphasis on quality, do they? But with the NECA bootlegs, usually they do a pretty good job. So, and this is a great figure. That's just one thing about this figure that irritates me is that gripping hand is not good. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about his articulation now, since I was starting to do that and got kind of distracted. So yeah, the bandana itself is articulated. Leonardo can look up about that far. I wish he could look up a little further than that. He can look down about that far. Range of motion looking down is excellent. He can kind of tilt his head quizzically from side to side. Rotate the head all the way around. Of course, the arms rotate all the way around the shoulders, and they raise up to the sides. About that far. So that's good. And then he's got double jointed elbows, and it's those kind of double jointed elbows that NECA does sometimes, where it's like, not only is it a double jointed elbow like you get in any other figure, where there's a joint where the elbow meets the forearm and where the forearm meets the upper arm meets the elbow. So he can bend his arm about that far. He could bend it a little further if the elbow pad wasn't getting in the way, but it also rotates all the way around where the elbow meets the upper arm, and rotates all the way around where the elbow meets the forearm. So you can get some good posing out of that. And then, of course, the wrists rotate all the way around, and they have a horizontal hinge on them, which seems kind of stuck on this one, but it can move back and forth like that. Like so. All right. And then, like I said, there's an articulation under the shell. So Leonardo can move back and forth like that, rock back and forth like that. I popped off the, I'll have to glue that back on. I accidentally popped off the sheath. That was my fault. I put a little too much leverage on the, but you see what I'm talking about here. It's glued to the straps, and then the straps are glued. That's actually good, because I can show that off. See, there's a little bit of a panel there to help glue all that down. So I can't tell if if I actually broke the little rubber tab, the little rubber peg, like a little rectangular peg that's supposed to fit in there. I don't think I did. But I can glue that back on. It's not a big deal. It's basically I just cracked the glue is what happened. But that happened because when I was moving the shell around, I was accidentally I had my finger where I wasn't really paying attention to what I was doing. Probably should have done that. But I put a little too much pressure on the sheath when I was trying to hold the torso, and the leverage popped it out. So be careful of that. Learn from my example in this case. All right. So and this seems kind of loose here. This seems like it's a little loose, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Anyway, Leonardo can kick up about that far. The turtles, just their anatomy with the shells and everything are going to prevent them from kicking up a little too far. And you can see it's actually kind of wrinkling up the shell a little bit there, which probably should not happen with a turtle in real life. This should be rigid bone. This is part of this is their rib cage, basically, is what the shell is. It's not like a separate piece. It's not like what you see in cartoons where like the turtle comes home from work and he takes off his shell. He's not like a hermit crab or anything. This is actually like part of the spine and the rib cage and all that stuff is incorporated into the shell. And the shells, believe it or not, are actually covered with like scaly skin. So, their shells can actually bleed when their skin over them gets damaged because they actually do have blood circulating through there. So it's not like what you see in even the Ninja Turtle cartoon sometimes where like Donatello gets bumped up against the wall while he's riding on the side of the Neutrino's car and Michelangelo's like, just put some turtle wax on it, dude. It's not like that in real life. But, it's a cartoon, so, the jokes like that, who cares? Leonardo does have, I should say, he's got this little bit of a rotation here. It doesn't rotate all the way around, I don't think. You could maybe if you forced it, but I'm not going to force it. I think I might have forced it too much as it is, and I get kind of stuck there. But, and then you can, do the splits, no problem. It's just, this joint over here is a little stiff, but you can see how one leg raises up further than the other. So, but yeah, so there's that kind of movement. And then he's got double jointed knees. That's about the range of motion you get in the knees. Again, I think you could probably get a little more if not for the fact that that knee pad kind of bunches up in there and gets in the way. And then, of course, Leonardo's knee also rotates all the way around where the it's a separate joint technically, but this whole knee piece is separate. And it plugs up into the thigh, and then it's got the two hinges on it for the double jointed knee, and then he's got some nice veins on the back of the calf. I hadn't noticed that with the other figures, but they did do like some nice vein work on the calves there. Not so much on the arms. They don't have that kind of Playmates vein on the arm, you know what I mean? But they got one down the back of the calves, so that's nice. And then Leonardo's foot can point down about that far and point up about that far. And then that, of course, rotates all the way around. Ow, pinch my finger. All right. So let's see if I can get at least get the katana into the hand that's kind of open. And like I said, these fingers are a little more rigid than I would like. But I was able to get that katana in there with ease, with relative ease. So there he is holding his sword, ready to lead the boys into battle against the Shredder. And of course, the Shredder is going to defeat them one by one. But if they attacked them all together like they did in the comic book, I think they could have taken him. But in the movie, of course, Splinter himself shows up and defeats the Shredder, which, it's a great movie. I love the movie. But I think if I was going to do anything differently in the movie, I would have had the boys be able to defeat the Shredder, team up together and defeat him like in the comics. Because I kind of feel like it's important for their journey to be able to defeat their ultimate enemy, basically, and not have their dad show up and handle it for them. So that's just something I would have done differently if I were making that. I don't mean to be second guessing Steve Barron, who's a fine director, and the screenwriters who did a fine job with that movie. You can see Leonardo's belt does right up a little high on his shelf versus how Michelangelo's was set up, but it's still not quite as high as Donatello's. I think this actually is about as high as Leonardo's belt is supposed to be, where it lines up with the first sort of groove in the front of his plastron, if you want to be fancy about what this is called. But and then he's got the same sort of spots that the other boys have, almost like he's got freckles. And some of these are kind of like a lighter olive green spot with a darker spot in them, and some of them are just the darker color of spots. But I think they are a little more subtle and more realistic and more accurate to the movie than what the original movie star Leonardo figure had, where he had all these kind of yellow spots and it looked like he was moldy or something. I don't know. But the bootleg, they didn't bother with any of that at all with the bootleg movie star turtles. And you can see that they colored in his elbow and knee pads blue, like on the cartoon series. But yeah, that's pretty much what the original Playmates movie star Leonardo looked like. Only this one has better colored weapons. And, I think just a better paint job in general because it didn't have those ugly yellow spots on it. I actually like these bootleg movie star turtles better than the real ones. I know a lot of people like the rubbery texture and have a lot of nostalgia for the rubbery arms and legs, but I never really cared for the rubbery arms and legs. These are more sort of standard action figure plastic, and I appreciate that more. And I was watching, I think it was Raz Reviews, where he was talking about bootleg Ninja Turtles that he ordered off of Amazon, and he was talking about how his Donatello, I think he said it was the same body that Leonardo had, so he wasn't able to hold his bow staff properly. But mine, that I got many, many, many years ago, so it might not even be the same, probably isn't even the same run, might not even be the same factory making those bootlegs. So I'm sure there's more than one. But mine appears to have Donatello arms. You can see that these are arms that are molded like they're meant to hold a bow staff. See, I can even kind of line them up. See how like he looks like he would be holding a bow staff. But I'd much rather have a Leonardo who's molded to hold a bow staff than a Donatello who's molded to hold katanas. Because you can see that, like, when I put the katanas into his hands, he's got them both kind of tilted in the same direction, which is a little odd, but, it's not bad. He looks better holding these swords than Raz Reviews Donatello looked holding a bow staff. I'll put it that way. But yeah, so again, with the movie star bootlegs that you get off of Amazon or eBay or really any place like that, I think even Walmart.com had them on there. Just know you could get something like a little more high quality or a little more low quality. And like I said, I got these many years ago, and he just happens to be one of the better versions. But we can see the pseudo Playmates next to the pseudo Neca, and you can see what I'm talking about. Where like Neca bootlegs tend to try to look as close to a Neca as possible, whereas with the Playmates bootleg, they were just kind of like, whatever, just color them to look like the cartoon. It's fine. We don't need to put all those stupid spots all over them. That's dumb. And of course, the NECA comic book figure. Well, that's Raphael. Here's Leonardo. So we can get one more look at both of these guys together. And of course, in the first issue, they weren't drawing the straps over Leonardo's shoulders at that time. So he didn't have those in the comic book yet. He just kind of had the sheaths tucked into his belt. But yeah, you can see the evolution of the character. And that's kind of neat. So this is what he looked like in 1984. And this was like 6 years later when they made the first live action film. So, and Jim Henson and his Creature Shop worked the magic and brought the boys to life and did a great job with them. So this is a great figure. like the other two figures in the set. And of course, they've got their own little quirks, not just as far as like the quirks that a NECA figure would have already, but the quirks that get worked in as a bootleg figure. I still do not like this hand at all, and NECA should have done a better job with that hand. I do like the alternate hands with the high 5, the high 3. I like that hand. That's pretty cool. And that's a hand that actually would work, I think, pretty well with the katana. And you want to be careful with these NECA hands, the official ones especially, because like I said, those are made of that softer plastic. So make sure that you're gripping the hand itself when you pull it out, and like kind of pinching the joint in between. Make sure that you've got the joint kind of sandwiched where you're applying your thumb and your finger when you pull it out, and that'll make sure that you don't pull the joint off of the hand. Because from what I understand, especially with the official NECA, where it is that softer plastic, it's pretty easy to tear it off. But you see how I can get that into a pretty good, almost like a defensive sort of, or a balancing sort of pose with the other katana. I really should have probably put this into the other sheath. Since he's holding the katana in his right hand, he should have the left hand sheath with the sword in it. But yeah, that's a good pose. I like that pose. But I'm still going to go, once this video is done, and try to apply some heat to this this closed hand and see if I can get that katana in there. But the space for it is just so small, and it's a badly designed hand. I don't like this hand. They should have just taken this hand and mirrored it. I think that would have worked a lot better. So anyway, that's it for Leonardo. But we still got one more of these guys left. We open up Leonardo, Michelangelo, and Donatello, which make up the group with one other fellow, Raphael, who is not the leader of the group, transformed from the norm by the nuclear goop, but he is my personal favorite Ninja Turtle. So we'll be opening him tomorrow. I always save Raphael for last. This is always the order that I go in with these boys: Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, Raphael. That's how I go. And that's not the end of Ninja Turtles either, because I got this guy in the mail the other day. I got him off of eBay. I do a lot of stuff to earn Amazon gift cards. And in this case, I'd seen that one of the things that I do to earn Amazon gift cards had a feature to do PayPal instead. So I decided to try that out, and it worked pretty well. So I had my $25 on PayPal, and I decided to do something a little fun with it, and I decided to pick this guy up. So that's the Mirage version of Casey Jones. But I'm not going to open him up immediately after I finish Raphael. I think I'm going to move on to some G.I. Joe. I'm going to save this guy for a while because I've got something special planned. But we'll talk more about that later. But next episode, we'll finally open up Raphael. And I want to be careful about this because I know there's parts rattling around in here. And you can see one of his sai is missing in the package. Oh no. So there's a movie reference to start off the review with when I open this guy up. So anyway, that's it for Leonardo. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Leonardo, both this version of the character specifically and the figure specifically, and just Leonardo in general, and what are some of your favorite versions of Leonardo, and versions that you thought did a good job with the character, versions you thought did a bad job with the character. Personally, I haven't seen too much of Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but that was one where they seemed like they got his personality like completely wrong. I don't know what they were thinking on that. You don't need two Michelangelos on your show. You've already got one Michelangelo, and trust me, one Michelangelo is plenty. People seem to have the impression, like, not fans of the Turtles, surely. We all know that they have distinct personalities. But I think, the normies, the casuals, they tend to get this impression that all four of the boys are pretty much Michelangelo, but we know they're not. And everybody loves Michelangelo. I'm not trying to talk smack about Michelangelo, but can you imagine the theme song if it was Leonardo's a party dude, Donatello is also a party dude, Raphael's a party dude, Michelangelo is a party dude. Like, if everybody's Michelangelo, then nobody is. They all have their function and they all have their place. And Leonardo's place is to be the leader and the calm one and the voice of reason. And he's the ninja in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as far as I'm concerned. Whereas Michelangelo is the teenage in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I'm going to say Donatello is the mutant because he's the science guy. So he would be more into like studying the mutations that they had and things like that. And Raphael's the turtle because he's the one who knows what it means to be an outcast. I think that's how I'm going to interpret. That's the parts of the name that I'm going to give to all four of those characters. If I was going to do something like that, if I was going to do a movie and the opening credits had the title, that's how it'd be: Teenage over a picture of Michelangelo, Mutant over a picture of Donatello, Ninja over a picture of Leonardo, and Turtles over a picture of Raphael. And see, even then, that's the order I went in: Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, and Raphael. That's a coincidence. I didn't even plan it that way. But anyway, that's the end of this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. We will talk to you next time. Bye.